Following on that 15% plunge on SKhainicks just a day ago, that was a record for the Seoul stocks. You are seeing that pressure still coming through for SKhainicks. So it looks like it's going to be another really challenging day. Indeed, the resolve of the AI trade is being tested in Korea with Kospi momentum at its weakest in more than a year. That sentiment has spilled over into the US markets on Monday, and SKhainicks's ADRs fell 9%, underscoring growing investor concern that the boom is overextended. Our Asia equities reporter Winnie Su joins us now. So Winnie, what are we watching today?
Seems like Korean stocks, especially SKhainicks, is still going to be seeing some more pressure today. Now, as you just mentioned, that is coming after how ADRs have slumped about 9% following a record slump in Seoul, down by 15% for SKhainicks. So today, most likely, we will see a bit further deleveraging when it comes to the retail investors. Now, the momentum for retail investors have definitely weakened. We did see the buying, in fact, yesterday into the slump. However, some concerns are also rising given how the retail deposit has fallen already so much, and now they actually have to kind of start to clear some of these positions. So a bit more volatility to be expected. We already had that 7th circuit breaker yesterday, and that's the 7th this year out of 20 that we have since the 2000s. So you can see how volatility has really spiked up, and that we are seeing investors turning a bit more cautious.
Given the volatility, given the heavy selling we've been seeing, are there investors out there who still see these plungers as buy the dip opportunities?
For sure, there are a lot of investors watching out for that opportunity, especially after how far stocks have fallen. And for some of these foreign investors who have that 10% cap on the individual stock, actually that has created more room for them to buy more. However, when you look at the technical side of things, SKhainicks, after having fallen some 40% from its peak, hasn't even reached that oversold territory. And right now we are eyeing that 100-day moving average as a support. So it can fall a bit more until investors actually step in for that buying opportunity, because fundamentals, in fact, still remain quite strong. You have valuations trading at the cheapest value on record, and also earnings momentum and earnings upside still looking strongest among these global peers. Now, adding to that, in fact, we are also seeing investors potentially turning more positive after earnings actually come through next week, because when you look at the slump yesterday, a lot is driven by the concerns when it comes to earnings potentially missing estimate by 8% or so. So once that's actually cleared next week, we can potentially see that as a window for investors to step in further.
All right, Kospi is back down here right now. We take a look at when it comes to what's going on. SKhainicks shares are lower by 3.5%. In relation to that, of course, is the leveraged ETF that tracks the stock here. We're down some 8% in Hong Kong here. So extending this route that we've seen after that record 15% drop yesterday in the South Korean shares. Let's bring in our Asia equities reporter, Sang-Mi Cha, who joins us now. We saw a little bit of that fallout really spill into the U.S. session as well. Sang-Mi, just walk us through what you and your team are talking about here today regarding, of course, this whole chip trade.
Yeah, Yvonne, yesterday was the so-called Black Monday. Here on the ground, people were actually in fear. Everybody was talking online that their leveraged ETF positions have been wiped out, and everybody didn't look that happy like on the streets either. But now we're seeing the SKhainicks stock fluctuating. We have seen as much as 5% up, and then as low as 5% today. And it's become very common in Korea for SKhainicks to move above and beyond 5% every day. I think there were 50 sessions or more this year alone where we have seen these kind of volatile moves. And that has definitely transferred into the entire Korean market. And that's quite understandable given that the turnover of the entire market, 70% of it is driven by the two chip stocks, Samsung and SKhainicks, and the leverage ETFs that track them.
I don't know. What's next?
Well, what's next would be definitely the leverage ETF space. That's what everybody's talking about. I just talked to a trader who said that all these speculative trades, these products will ultimately end up in tears for these retail investors. We do see a lot of that happening, especially with the sell-offs that's been happening. And we have seen, especially the 16 of these products that was launched in the late May in Korea, following the successful debut of the CSOP ETF in Hong Kong. We have seen a lot of Koreans actually have gain exposure to SKhainicks and Samsung through these leverage ETFs. So yesterday we had the financial regulator who urged the asset manager CEOs to actually look into these ETFs. There were a lot of voices clamoring about even curbing these ETFs, even delisting of some of these levered products.
Sang-mi, thank you. Sang-mi Cha there in Korea for us on, the stock story really of the year so far. Okay, just...